It's a sad box. It's a soap box. It's fan box.
Down, down, down the road, down the witch's road.
And welcome to this is episode 5, but we're talking about episode 6 of Agatha All Along. This is Familiar by Thy Side. This is the episode right after we get the Billy reveal from episode 5. Joining me this evening is a couple guys that I did not expect to be joining me because they are in New York right now for New York Comic Con. They are trying to recover from the Saturday rush. And so first of all, I want to go ahead and bring on Juan from Juan Reads Comics. Juan, go ahead and just say hello and introduce yourself and tell us where we can find you.
Hello. Oh, shit. I have my stuff on mute. Anyway, hello. My name is Juan Reads Comics, and you can find me right now only on TikTok, but I'm working on Facebook and Instagram and all that jazz. But that's where you can find me right now. And yes, my dogs are recovering right now.
Yeah, and just real quick, in fact, you know what I'm gonna do? Let me go and bring David on. David, let me go ahead and get you on as well. David is also kind of like bunkered down after Saturday of New York Comic Con. Go ahead and tell us where we can find you, and then I want you two to go ahead and give me a real like quick rundown of I guess your highlights so far from New York Comic Con, and then we're gonna go ahead and bring on Alex from Screen Hub. So go ahead, David.
I am Xanatos1138 on all social media. I'm mostly on TikTok, though. You can find me there. And if you see me at the con, come say hi. I want to meet more people.
Yeah, and he's having a hard time finding people. So, like, the whole cool part about when you're on social media is catching up with your mutuals. And if you can't do that, it's not worth it. So make it worth David's while and find him, hunt him down. He will appreciate any stalkers you can possibly give him. But guys, go ahead. Tell me real quick, just kind of like highlights from New York Comic Con real quick before I bring Alex on.
You go ahead.
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is the incredible cosplays I'm seeing. There's some incredibly talented people. Like I saw a Beetlejuice with the whole scene where there's the miniature table of the town. He had the whole table in front of him connected to him. And all I can think is, how is that guy getting around? But it was so detailed. It was awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah, I have to just echo what he's saying. Like the cosplays this year are just like next level, man. Every time I turn the corner, there's just something else that I see that I just absolutely freaking love and want to take a picture with them. But like, I gotta be at this freaking panel in like 3 minutes. But this cosplay is awesome. So let's take a picture real quick. But yeah, it's awesome. It's my first year at New York Comic Con, first year in New York. So it's a little overwhelming. And I gotta say this, man, if you gotta stop, don't stop in the middle of everything. Move to the freaking side. Everyone likes to gather in the middle, and it just makes it tough to do anything at the con. But you know, the masses. But anyway,
that's a good point. If you're in a group of people, like you need to have like it planned out how you're going to coordinate when you decide to stop at a booth, because you have one person stopping and then they all kind of clump behind the person. And that's the worst thing you can possibly do. It's like file in or just keep moving and then just catch up at the end of the line, because that's the best way to go with it. But without making him wait any longer, also want to just go ahead and welcome for the first time with this show and of course with Fanbox, which pretty much anybody who gets on Fanbox, it's new, is Alex from Screen Hub Entertainment. Alex, welcome. Thank you for joining.
Hey.
And just go ahead and tell us like where we can find you and what you're doing and plug. And just so you guys know, even with the viewership for the show here, because I can imagine with New York Comic Con, it's going to be people are like recovering and like a hangover from just being out. I've been impressed. We're 4 episodes in. We have got over 700 downloads on podcasts, like across the board. The show is doing fantastically well for audio. So for those of you who are driving to work and you are listening to this or driving to anything, or you're just like doing yard work and you're listening to us, first of all, I'm sorry, but then at the same time, thank you. But tell us where we can find you, Alex.
Well, first, you guys can hear me okay, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, so I am at Screen Hub Entertainment, pretty much everywhere. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, X, formerly Twitter. I'm on Threads. I'm on Mastodon. So I'm all over the place if you search around. But I also want to give a plug to the website Screen Hub Entertainment .blog, which is where me and my co-founders of Screen Hub Entertainment, we post all sorts of entertainment news related stuff, entertainment opinion stuff. We right now we're doing one of our writers is doing weekly reviews of each episode of Penguin on
Nice.
HBO Max. So there's some really good content there, and I'm very active on all the platforms. So if you have any questions for me, reach out.
Awesome. And just since we've talked about New York Comic Con, just also remind you, if you're wanting to know more about any coverage of what's going on at New York Comic Con, be sure to check out Nerd Initiative on the social medias, especially. They are posting videos and quick rundowns from panels that they've done. And of course, you can get like little day 1, day 2 synopsises on the Nerd Initiative website, nerdinitiative.com. And of course, if you're not subscribed here, please make sure you're subscribing. Give us a like, a follow, wherever you are, because we are currently on X. We are on Facebook, and we are of course on YouTube, and we do greatly appreciate that. But regardless, if you are listening on podcasts, do all of those things. Like, don't just listen of course, but do all of those things. Make sure you follow Nerd Initiative, make sure you're following its Fanbox, make sure you're following Screen Hub Entertainment, and all of these amazing guys. Besides, even if it's tomfoolery that we're doing while we're on our different platforms or whatever it is absolutely fun. And
very often it is tomfoolery.
It has to be.
I indulge in tomfoolery constantly.
But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into what we're here for, which is Agatha All Along, episode number 6. Familiar Know Thy Name. This is the episode following the reveal, of course, unless you've been watching the Funko spoilers of Billy Maxwell. And I'm going to switch this up a little bit real quick because I want to be the last person that says anything. So Alex, since you're new to us, you will definitely be first to talk. But first of all, let's go ahead and just get kind of overall thoughts about the episode.
Well, if I'm first of all, I'm honored. Second of all, I really loved it. I thought it was fascinating to get so much backstory packed into one episode, and so many questions and little plot holes filled in a single episode, that it's probably because of that, it's the most satisfying episode of the series so far.
Agreed. Juan?
I told you we were deviating from the trials. Now, didn't I? I told you we were deviating from the trials. And I just had a feeling that we were going to deviate from the trials because as the episodes went forward, you can tell that Billy, or the kid, had more to do with the story than anything. So I just felt like that was going to be what was going on. But anyway, absolutely loved it. And that's all I got to say.
Okay. David?
I feel like I also kind of called that there'd be like a flashback around now and like fill in the gaps. And I love those kind of episodes because it doesn't leave all the questions till the end. Like, you get some of the answers and then it leaves the rest of the show to kind of resolve the rest. And just all of it was interesting. I was kind of bummed that he went back to square one with his power, but it does make sense because he has to be extremely emotional to be able to use it. But yeah, overall, it was a really fun episode.
Oh, absolutely. So we were trying to, I remember last episode, we were trying to talk about if it correlated kind of similar to WandaVision. WandaVision did not have the flashback until episode 8. I mean, we're in episode 6, which let's face it, it makes perfect sense. But it's definitely, I think, a Marvel MCU trope now to kind of like have the big reveal and then go back and explain all of it. Which I have to say, I love when a TV show does that because it tells that they were having the thoughts ahead of time. Like, we're not just going to do the reveal, we're gonna flesh it out. And I think with this episode, they did a really good job at that, and they made it palatable. I know some people have issues when it comes to the representation standpoint by the Joe Locke casting for it. But aside from that, I have heard a lot of great things about not only the bar mitzvah, but kind of like the little Easter eggs that went along. So I did like it. I kind of know something about the future based off of images from trailers, but I will say the idea that Agatha was able to crawl out of the dirt does make it promising for Lila and for, I think it was Jennifer. So definitely that was also a good thing too. But let's go ahead and jump in. I don't have a lot of slides for this one, mainly because Marvel has been, or Disney Plus has been releasing a lot of their footage from their assets like on Monday, which doesn't work for us too much, but we're making do with what we got. First of all, we have the bar mitzvah. Interesting thing about this, and then I want to get you guys' thoughts. Pop culture rabbi Micah, who is good friend mutuals, talked about this, and I know I saw another bunch of other either rabbi in training or Jewish creators talking about how the passage that he read at the actual the reading at the beginning was from Leviticus 10, which is if you're Anglo, you probably know it by Nadab and Abihu, but it's Nadav and Abihu, which was the sons of Aaron that gave the strange fire and were actually killed by fire from God. And it's interesting that it's the two brothers, and of course we know how the story is going to go down the road. And then of course we get the reveal that Lila is the one who cast the sigil on, at this time, William Kaplan. So again, let's go ahead and keep going down the row of where we at. Thoughts about this reveal and just like overall about kind of like setting up William Kaplan before we get Billy.
Okay, so if I'm going first again, first of all, I am unbelievably happy that they are doing that they have revealed, like, this opening scene made me incredibly happy, because I remember so many people that I'm close with were very, very hurt when WandaVision kind of erased the Jewish history behind Wanda Maximoff. Mm-hmm. And that stung, that hurt people a lot. And so for them to at least do something to try and in some way repair that, having it not just reveal that he is practicing Jewish, but that having the opening scene be a bar mitzvah is I think that probably was really, really meaningful to a lot of people, and it made me very happy to be able to see that. I also thought it was interesting. I saw a video just earlier today from another rabbi in training, actually, on TikTok. And she was saying that there is a passage in the Hebrew Bible that people were curious about, because it the translation essentially says, thou shalt not engage with soothsayers or future seers or truth tellers or magicians of any kind. And she agreed that, like, so people were curious, like, does a fortune teller at a bar mitzvah kind of go against that? Would that not be allowed? And what I found interesting was, she said, if you kind of read between the lines a little bit and understand the historical nature of what these words are trying to say, the Hebrew Bible absolutely indulges in mysticism and magic, as long as it served to maintain the traditions and the structures and the values of that faith. And what they're most likely warning about is anything that would subvert that faith or take away from that faith. And so it's not necessarily, it wouldn't necessarily be forbidden, as long as because this is not something that would really take away. This is not something that is trying to take, lure people away, as it were, from the Jewish faith. And I thought that was a really interesting point. I hadn't thought of that. That really hadn't occurred to me, but really, really interesting side note.
Yeah.
Also, I was not expecting her to be the one to have written the sigil. I'll let other people talk about the sigil because I've gone on long enough, but was not expecting that.
Okay. All right. Davis's wand kind of dropped off. Hopefully we'll get him back in a little bit, but go ahead.
Yeah, that was my first thought too, is like I liked how they showed, okay, this is where the witches were before this happened. And she was the last one that I expected to even like draw that sigil. Like she knew something and just decided, okay, it's best to have a sigil on the boy. And she also saw something that I don't think that we that we know yet. She just said that his line is his lifeline is cut in two. And then,
and that's interesting because she could have been talking about what we saw. Like she may have, she may have just seen that moment where Billy Maximov entered into his body, and that was that dividing of two lives. Or it could be something that we haven't seen yet, and that's go ahead.
What's kind of interesting when she looked at her crystal ball, like wasn't that like I have to go back and watch it again. Don't hold me 100%. Let's go ahead and get Juan back on there. One of the things that I thought was kind of surprising was it looked like the image in the crystal ball was Billy on the witch's road, because there was the tattering of the shirt and stuff. It looked like she's looking far down, like one, that she might be a part of this, two, that he's there and that's what he is. And so it was interesting, like her seeing that. And at the same time, I kind of feel like just like she goes autopilot sometimes with the way that she tells the future for things like Alice no, or we've got to save Agatha. I feel like that whole sigil thing, she was an autopilot. So even though she would remember doing it, I don't think even if the sigil didn't work that way and that it didn't wipe the memory of the person that cast the sigil, I don't think she would have remembered in the first place, because I really feel like that was her, like absolutely on autopilot that whole time. It was part of her and what she does when she kind of like blanks out. So, Juan, what were your thoughts?
Well, since I didn't hear what any of y'all said,
just go for it. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I mean, I was saying this before, how like in past episodes we see how, and I'm horrible with names because I just forget names or whatever.
Same.
But
yeah,
this like she kind of plays like a gypsy type of witch, and I can see like a little bit of her like losing connection with herself. It's like she's like either being displaced from her body or she's being controlled by someone else. I don't know what's really going on with her, but I just kept thinking to myself that I needed to pay more attention to her. And this episode definitely just like, just confirmed all of that. That we definitely needed to listen or pay attention to her more than anyone else, because she was the one that put the sigil on him. And I don't know, like, what was her reason for to do it, and why? And did she know what was happening? Did she know who Agatha was, or did she know about Wanda? Like, there must be some ties in there somewhere that we're possibly, or most definitely going to find out later on within the series, which I love how they're just like dropping these little bombs on us because I mean, this is how like a mystery show should be done, and they're doing it perfectly because every episode when you're done watching it just leaves you with more questions than answers that gets you wanting to watch the show more, and that's why I'm enjoying this so much.
Yeah. Yeah, the character in the comics, I think, like from what I've been able to kind of derive, I think she was some type of royalty, and that she was cast out because of the fact that she could tell the future, and so her doing that, I almost wonder if there's like a part of her that's either been broken or suppressed itself, because could you imagine? I mean, I mean, let's go back to Encanto. We know what happens when you have an unreliable fortune teller,
Mhm.
and what problems it can cause. And so, not saying Disney did that, though they kind of did. We kind of have a Bruno in a sense that only gives like glimpses of the future, and we have no idea like what it is. And even in the sense of does that glimpse of the future literally cause the like it only connects after it happens. It's one of those things where it's like you get the Twilight Zone where it's like if you cross the street, you're gonna die. And so you do everything you can, you finally give up thinking it's not gonna happen. And of course, you delaying it because of the fortune is what actually gets you into a place where you can be, hurt by said fortune. But yeah, I loved it. As soon as she started drawing on the tile, and I was like, oh, that's
There it is.
that's it. I like it. Like every like it's almost like they knew. Oh, we thought Agatha we did it. Oh, we thought Wanda did it. It's like, oh no, Lila did it, and you weren't going to expect it, and we're going to just throw so much at you. We do know that there was an emergency at the bar mitzvah. They cease early, which that's so tough when you have a party just focused on you, all of that money invested in it,
Mm.
and they just have to shut down. Um, Will Wilkins was going to join us this evening, but there were some family issues. He may join us later on. One of the questions he brought was like, I thought the hex prevented you from being aware of it, and of course we know that once Sword was aware, and after that second that big expansion happened, the hex kind of stopped being clandestine. Everyone kind of knew about it. It was kind of like the big threat that you just kind of didn't know what was going on. And of course, they weren't really sure. And we know that because of everything that was happening, the Kaplans did have a car wreck. And that was the moment when, of course, William Kaplan has passed. And of course, which is the exact same time when Billy is transported from the hex and his spirit goes into the body of William Kaplan. And the first thing out of his mouth is, of course, Tommy. And I think beyond that, I want to say this. How wholesome is this show become in my mind? We're talking about witches and power and trials and hexes and curses and all this other stuff. And you realize that Billy's main focus isn't his mom. His focus is his brother. And I was like, oh, that's nice. I like that. I like that a lot. So
yeah, I agree. And it's this great mix. And in this episode specifically, it's one thing that I loved because you in the previous episodes, you started getting, the coven when they started working together and they started figuring stuff out together. That was really wholesome too. Like you could see there were connections. They were starting to feel almost like a family.
Mm-hmm.
And then this episode comes along, and it is this bizarre mix of the most wholesome that the show has ever been with Billy's love for his brother and desperate search for his brother, but also you get the sinister Agatha back, which I love, and it is so good. Catherine Hahn is just insanely good at that sinister Agatha version, and I didn't realize how much I missed it until it came back. So I love the wholesomeness from everything about the family. That's such a good family that he had. That the parents were, they weren't always, on the same page. They, I guess they didn't really fight because they didn't realize what the other was thinking. But the fact that they really genuinely cared about him, they really genuinely cared about each other. It was great to see a functional, well-adjusted family in this show, and then also the flip side. I love both sides.
Yeah, well adjusted for 2-day-old. That's it's
Yes.
when you think about it, these boys were only 2 days old, and
That's true. That's true.
yeah. Now Lila, it makes sense he didn't recognize her. But going back and thinking about episodes 1 through 5 and understanding the relationship that he had with Alice makes absolute perfect sense for the fact that she was one of the few sources of protection and safety after he comes to as William, and it makes sense that he would automatically be gravitated to her, and I love that. So yeah, that's all I'm gonna say about it. There's a little bit of a curve for him. I mean, let's face it, Billy does bounce back quickly. I mean, being a 2-day-old, you kind of figure out how to handle things. And so he realizes very quickly that he has to kind of put up a front with William's parents, because he understands the circumstance that he's in, but he doesn't completely understand it. And of course, there is also a sigil on him, so he's trying to kind of figure those things out. And though they think it's amnesia, he does have issues where he can hear people as they are, as he has anxiety and stress. So let's get your thoughts, guys.
Well, I liked the continuity of that, where his powers are consistently emotion based. He can his telepathy is only really gets bad when his actually there's 2 triggers for it, because it's his own anxiety and it's his feelings for the person, because he states flat out in the episode that it's only people that he really cares about that he can hear their thoughts, which is a brilliant mechanic, because it explains why he can't hear Agatha's thoughts or the rest of the Coven's thoughts. At least at this point, I have a feeling that may become, if they may have him grow feelings for them or at least some of them at a certain point, and that may be a thing. But I did like the consistency that all of his powers are based on his emotions.
Oh, my thought is this. Because it feels like someone who has amnesia, but at the same time, it's almost like when Grogu took over like the robot's body, and he's like pushing the buttons and he's saying the things. Well, what if Billy is just, the person who's pushing the buttons, and William is still trying to figure out what the heck is going on? Maybe he's still alive, but I don't know. It just feels all surreal a little bit, but at the same time, like, my other thought is that he's trying to figure out how he's dealing with this, because he's just he gets these powers and he doesn't know how to deal with them. And when his dad comes into the hospital and he says, "Hey, buddy," and then he's like, doesn't even look at him, and he was like, "Your next word should be like, when did you start calling me buddy?" So his family already knew there was something off with him, but they couldn't really, place it. Like, they don't think it's really amnesia. So, and then in this scene here, when they're at home and they started talking, and then he's like, he can hear both of them having their thoughts with each other, and then he just is like, "Quit arguing! Don't do that!" And they look at it, she's like looking at him like, how did you hear what I just said? Like, you verbatimly just said what I was thinking. How? What? And then when he says, "Well, maybe I just need to see my room," and that's just something he just said to make them feel comfortable with this anomaly that has just been taking place in their family.
Mhm.
So he's also trying to like cope with it all and keep them at ease. So I don't know. I really love this scene, and then when he goes up to his room, I'm just like, oh, look at the walls, look at the posters, let's see what's going on. But this whole scene before all of that just like really plays into um, they know they lost their son, that who they
Mhm.
have in front of them is not who they think it is, and they're trying to figure out why and how. So very well done, very good writing, acting, everything just was just done perfectly.
Yeah, and there's something weirdly wholesome. Like, yeah, he's trying to like play it off so that they don't think he's crazy and commit him, but at the same time, he's playing along for their sake.
Yep.
And it's like you essentially barely know these people, and you're already like, I'm going to just act like this for their sake because I don't
Yep.
want them to argue.
Let
Yep.
me throw something in there real quick that kind of like messes with that too. Being that he was probably in the hospital with them for a couple days, they were parents to him longer than Vision and Wanda were.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is, I didn't think of that.
And especially when you think about him being with them for 3 years before he kind of goes after Agatha, he knew there was something up with him, but they are the longest and strongest constant, which it was kind of funny because I was trying to think like, why would like, especially like in the comics, because it's, if you think, when you look at it, he doesn't call himself Maximoff, he's Billy Kaplan.
Mm.
And then even in the show, like he's still saying I'm Billy Kaplan or I'm William Kaplan. It's this idea that he has been a Kaplan longer than he ever was a Maximoff. And the amount of love and attention, because also think about this. How much parenting did Wanda and Vision actually do for those kids
Oh,
in those 2 days? Vision was an absent parent because he was off doing whatever, trying to figure out what Wanda was doing, and Wanda was having that whole like for half of their life at that point, she was just kind of like, lounging at home, and you're sitting there like, honestly, Ralph Boner was more of a character as Peter or Petro as the rest of them were.
I mean, for like a quarter of that time, Agatha was babysitting them.
Yep.
So Agatha was a potentially large influence on his life already.
Right. So like I could see like it makes sense, like even because when you were saying the comment about, the emotional attachment that you can hear them thinking like, okay, we know the boyfriend, that makes sense. There's a strong emotional attachment there. But just like, let's say he was in the hospital for 3 days. That's more than half his life that he has been with these people, and they've been his parents, and they have been doting on him. So it makes sense that he already has bonds, and he wants to please them. And at the same time, like, he knows that there's something off about him. But again, because of the sigil, he doesn't know exactly what it is. But the only thing that is a constant was the Tommy part, because it wasn't really that he pieced it together that, of course my accident happened because of the hex. I don't know what the deal with is with Tommy. And then of course he meets Ralph later on, which we'll get into. And that kind of puts him down the road of, him assuming that possibly he is Billy. But yeah. And like you said about him walking in the room, and I wish I had a picture of it. And then with him doing the research of the hex and witches and the Witches Road, all of the end credit scenes are Billy's either research or his room. And that is beautiful. That is absolutely beautiful, to the point of where he's even watching The Craft. Like, that's why it's in there, because he's probably watching that movie like, is this something I can pattern after? Like,
yeah.
So absolutely beautiful. And I love how they did that. And if you didn't notice, also in this end credit scene, there was a point where they would do the credits and you'd see the different like cast members' names. And it seemed like it was weird that there was a blank space where the hex was. And of course, that's where we get Evan's his tag, because we do know that at some point we are going to get Ralph Boner.
Which I loved that they brought him back. The second
Yeah.
that they revealed that he was going to go meet somebody, and that it was this he found on Reddit, and it was this clandestine thing. I was like, oh, it's going to be him. I really want it to be him. And there were a lot of moments like that in the show where, like, is it that going to happen? I really hope that happens because I really want that to happen, and it did. And this was one of the biggest ones, and he was great. It was great to see that character. It was exactly how I feel like that character would have reacted to all of this.
Oh yeah, oh, absolutely. And I love the fact that we get him again just for the whole purpose of him not being Quicksilver. Like it's definite,
Yes.
A lot of people were concerned they were going to do a whole nother Ralph Boner twist, which let's just say that the handle bonerific like is perfect for a guy who does not know how to do witness protection well. It's this guy cracked me up a lot.
I want to know how many takes it took for him for Billy to say bonerific with a straight face.
I don't know.
I bet it was a bunch.
Yeah.
He probably practiced it in his trailer before a bunch of times beforehand. just sitting in his trailer, you hear from through the door, bonerific. Bonerific. Damn it. Bonerific.
Well, what I really loved about bringing bonerific into all this is that it takes a moment for you to digest everything that you just took in, and to have some like lighthearted moments for you to be like, and then bring something else in, which is like, oh my god, I remember this guy from WandaVision. Is that WandaVision? Is that the guy from WandaVision? And it is, and he's like a conspiracy theorist. He like turned into this like conspiracy theorist and whatnot. So I really love that they did that, because so it kind of like breaks up the show to not be so serious.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I really liked about it. This, yeah.
I feel for the dude. Go ahead.
Now, when I first saw the reveal, I kind of rolled my eyes because of the Ralph Boner thing. But this really was the perfect way to utilize him for this, and just all like the whole scene with the spraying in the face. Don't mention Agatha Harkness. All of it was great.
I will say I feel
just. Oh, go ahead. You go ahead.
No, you're good. You're good. Go ahead.
Okay. I loved that it wasn't just a cameo. It wasn't just bringing back a character. It was actually info gathering. He gave important context that really nobody else could have given. No other character really could have given the kind of context that he could have given to Billy at that point. And also it kind of gave some closure to Ralph Boner's story, because at the end of WandaVision, I mean, if your listeners are remember, WandaVision ended during the beginning of COVID, and so they had a ton of plans that they could not film. They were unable to film that the ending the way they wanted to, so they had to rewrite a bunch of stuff. And I do remember hearing that they had other plans for him, but they couldn't do it. And so they had to kind of wrap his stuff up quick. And so this gives a little extra closure to his story. He wasn't just some guy, and now we know that he's a more well-rounded character. He has clearly been through trauma, but he's also kind of nice that he's out there. He's got a one-man show going,
Yeah. Yeah. That payment, that was great. I will say I have a lot of strong feelings for him when it comes to his Blu-ray collection. The fact that he had to leave everything, but it's that, and of course we do get to see it. Yeah, and we do get to see it when she puts Billy or William in the closet, which I love that part as well, because he's like, I don't want to go back in the closet.
It's great.
Yeah, right.
love the fact that we get to see Agatha's like her in her own little like spell, but what everyone else sees, like I did not realize that I wanted that. But the moment we start seeing what actually was happening versus what was playing in her head, I was absolutely hooked. I love the fact that like, even the stuff that she did, like when she kicks him and he doesn't go anywhere, and like she sounds like she's tough. Like it was perfect. It was absolutely perfect.
Yeah,
Uh,
and some of the
Go ahead.
dialogue was different, which I didn't realize would happen. Some of the what was said was actually different from what Wanda heard, and that kick, which you saw knocked him over in the chair, just kind of he went ow, and it didn't do anything there.
And we also know that he did steal something. He
Mhm.
stole the locket because he needed that to be able to break the curse or break the spell.
Yeah. So and what's interesting is I'm going to admit that this is one of the scenes that I didn't love as much as the episode as the rest of the episode. I did enjoy the fact that we got to see this side of the real world side of her delusions. The one thing that I didn't love, and this is completely a personal subjective thing, is
Mhm.
is she went a little more goofy in this version than she did the original version, and I had it was a little more exaggerated, and I had I thought of that when I was actually watching it, and then I saw somebody online put the two clips side by side and let you see them, and they sync up pretty well. Like you said, there's some dialogue differences, but her performance in the first one is exaggerated but a little bit serious, and this one just felt a little more goofy than I kind of wanted to see. I wanted to see the same. I wanted it to be closer, and maybe I'll feel differently after a little while. But for some reason, when I was watching it, I thought, I wish that she had kept that exact same energy.
Yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but like she's like in a TV show and she's not an actor. So
Mhm.
she's like she's playing a role that she has no business doing. So
Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair.
it's like a person that takes a job that has no business doing it. They just like fox their resume to get the job, and
Mhm.
that's what I really loved about it because it was like in her head she felt like she was killing it. She's like I'm out here I'm about to get me a Tony Award for this stuff, But then, what's really it's like I, I don't want to. It's like if you take some like enhancing types of things that you inhale through the whatever you feel like you sing better than what you sound like, and
Mhm.
this is
Yep.
her. She's like uh, taking a performance enhancing drug that makes her feel like she is something, but she really isn't. And that's pretty much like what she is. Is she's doing something that she isn't. And what you get, what William or Billy or the kid is really seeing is the real thing of what's happening, but in her head as being under the hex is like she's like actually killing it. So for an actor, that's amazing. Like I love the contrast between the two is because
Yep.
she has that range to make it look like she can act really well when you first get it on the first episode because we know she can act, and then all of a sudden turn it around and do what she did here. It just was absolutely hilarious to me. It was so freaking funny because it's just like, oh, so this is what Billy is really watching, right? This is hilarious.
Mhm.
I just loved exactly what was going on because I was like, because when I first saw it, I was like, because I didn't watch any trailers or anything. So when I first saw it, I was like, oh, this is like CSI or some. Well, let's go. She's a cop. What? Okay. Let's see what else is going on. So this really like fills it in for me. Just like makes it more feel like WandaVision when she comes out of it, and because Billy is outside of it all. He's not a part of the hex. He's not a part of anything other than the sigil. So he's actually seeing the craziness that's going on with all of it. So yeah, I don't know. I thought it fit perfectly because of like the nuance between it too. But yeah, I thought this whole scene was like absolutely done well.
I
I
will
feel
say
like
this. Okay.
sorry. I feel like I agree with both of you, but the part where she's writing on the pad was like the line for me. It's like, okay, that's a little too much. I don't know.
Yeah,
Hamming a little too
Which
much.
was too
that's
much,
kind of
even in her delusion.
that was kind of where, because it's very similar in the first episode, but it's just a little more exaggerated and goofy and that was the line where it started to become distracting to me,
Okay.
Mhm.
rather than be part of it. And so I absolutely understand that that's what they were going for, and I think that's great. Also, I want to give a quick shout out to the garden hose nozzle in the holster. I need to get me one of those for when I'm working in the yard.
Right. Because she thought she had a gun, but it was
Yeah,
just a
exactly. You got
gun
to have
hose
something.
holster.
You got to have something in the holster, and what are you going to use when you're in a suburbia?
Absolutely. I will say, as a social media content creator, there is nothing more anxiety driven than a person feeling like they're doing a good job at something and they're in a delusion. And then all of a sudden the curtain comes off, because I can tell you right now, even the notepad, like, she thought it was a good idea. We know what it looks like outside of her delusion. It didn't look that great inside the delusion. And, going back to the first trial where she kind of like didn't want to do it, there's like this level of insecurity. I bet there's like an imposter syndrome coming off of all of this. We don't realize like the trauma that happens. I mean, look at what Westview went through, and probably the counseling like prices that went up,
Yeah.
after WandaVision. But like, I can tell you, there are times when we make content on social media, there are takes. There are
Mhm.
times where you're like, let's delete that part. Let's do it again. Oh, I stuttered. Let's do it again. And she was doing this all raw dogging it, and it wasn't that great for her. And we're sitting, and I'm sitting there going, oh crap. Like, it's just like you guys that are at New York Comic Con right now. You polish, you have a persona on social media, and then you meet your social media friends. You're like, don't act like a fool, don't act like a fool, don't act like a fool.
This guy right
And
here.
oh, it's me. I'm like, I try to like have like this persona of like confidence when I'm doing stuff. David knows. David has seen me in person. I'm kind of goofy and insecure, and most of the times I'm like, you don't have to do anything because I'm doing it or whatever else. Like, I will apologize way more than I need to, and it's just how I am. I don't look like that on social media because I delete videos over and over again before they come out. So that's what the take I got from it was, the idea of like, it's just like those videos when you think that you made one that was really funny and it gets no views, and
Yeah.
people are like, you're like, that was so funny, and then everyone else looking like, that was kind of stupid. You're like,
Yeah.
And then suddenly you got to think, well, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
What did I do wrong? Because it had
Yeah.
to be me. It wasn't the time of day that I posted, or it wasn't any of these other random variables. That it had to be me. It must have been me that people didn't like. And will they ever like me again?
yeah, absolutely. So we've get this. Now we've gotten through a lot of the backstory. Of course, then we find Agatha clawing herself out of the ground. She's definitely dirty. And they kind of go back and forth. She goes after Billy to figure out like, what is his motivation? Is it for mom? Is it for dad? Which is something that we've all been speculating all this time. And I don't know why I've not heard a single person across social media be like, oh, he's looking for his brother. Why were we so, why did we mess up with Tommy so much? I don't know why.
I think I kind of knew it was for Tommy in the back of my mind, but I'm still like, please be Wanda. I want to see Wanda again.
So I will say I have a pair of twins, and they are more than 2 days old, and they are also not teenagers. But I had a strong feeling that he was going to be looking for his brother, because I see the connection between my two kids that is really, really something else. And so, like, I have firsthand knowledge of how strong that bond is, and if one of them is if they're not in sight of each other, at least 5 minutes in, the question is going to be, well, where are they? Where are they? I mean, they're 4 years old, and they're still, so they're already so connected.
Yeah, there is something that I mean, like, even like right now during the Halloween season, I've been working at Spirit Halloween, like seeing the twins come in, and they're so in tune to each other that they want to, like, even like costumes, they want to coordinate costumes, and some they want, they hate each other's guts. I guess I get that. But for those that have that bond is strong and stronger than a lot of other siblings have, and I just, again, I keep saying it's just super wholesome. I love the fact it's like, but then of course I see this on social media from everybody. It's like, if only if it were for the sigil, we wouldn't have had Multiverse of Madness. If the sigil wasn't placed, Wanda would have been able to at least find Billy and know that Tommy was somewhere and help try to find him. So it's messed up.
It definitely is.
So, with that said, let me ask you guys, what are your hopes or projections? Because, of course, we know, let's just say this, Agatha does convince Billy to at least let them work together. He does emphasize the fact that he does not trust her. And I thought what was really interesting was, at first it sounded like she was really hurt by that emphasis. For the fact that she's like, okay. And then she finally was just like, last person there is a nice person. Which I loved his statement is like, I'm not that nice. Like, go Billy. But what are those projections?
Yeah. So I definitely think that Billy and Agatha are going to continue on working together in some fashion, and there's going to be a lot of tension there, and that's going to be entertaining to watch. I also think that so first of all, I am not super hopeful that we will get to see Wanda at any point in this show. I hope so. That would be awesome, but I'm not hopeful. But I don't think it's going to happen, only because I feel like the budget would have been higher if they had to pay.
Good point.
If they had to pay that for Elizabeth Olsen to come back, that she costs a pretty penny these days. I also think, I don't know if Alice is going to come back. I think she's gone, but it's entirely possible that Jennifer and Lila are going to come back. At the very least, Lila is going to come back, because you don't do Patti LuPone like that. I don't know how much of you guys are into musical theater at all, but you don't leave Patti LuPone in
social media right now for her,
right? Yeah, no,
like,
and my wife was a theater kid. She minored in musical theater in college, and so I am well aware of Patti LuPone and what a monumental figure she is to a lot of people, to a huge segment of people who are viewing this show. So no, she at least is going to come back, and possibly we'll get a little more information about what she saw, what her visions have been about, and what happened at the bar mitzvah.
Can I just say right now, her social media presence for Agatha all along, just the hot ones, like clips with Aubrey Plaza, is everything. Like, when I will admit it, Patti LuPone did know a whole lot, wasn't really into the whole, musical theater stuff as much. I knew of her, but not as much. The moment she starts going off on Madonna, and then immediately turns around and was like, Kim effing Kardashian. And she's like, should we talk about that or should I eat a wing? Like, I was like, I love her. I love her.
Yeah.
Let her cook. Like, it was
Yes.
beautiful.
There was quick side story. The moment that I realized that she was that kind of person that I would just fall in love with was I feel like it was the Tony Awards a few years ago. Maybe it was during COVID, and she was performing before the Tony Awards. It was like the day before, and she was performing on stage, and there was a woman up in front who would not wear a mask.
Yep, I remember this.
And she Patty LuPone stopped the show and said, please put your mask on. And the woman refused, and the woman had the audacity to say, I pay your salary, or I pay your paychecks. And Patty LuPone had none of it. She just said, excuse me, my producer pays my paychecks.
Right.
And then and then in her speech during the next night during the Tony Awards, she referenced that moment because she thanked her producer. She said, and I'd like to thank this producer who signs my checks.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so if she has the guts to do that and be that sassy, that fantastic, I'm in. I'm all in.
Yeah, she's been amazing. I've absolutely loved it. Yeah, I definitely think we're getting her back. I have seen some stuff in the from before, so I do know we are getting some things with them. I think we're going to see them wherever they ended up going down into. But I will say this: one of the things that I'm a little bit concerned about is there's a lot of rumors now going since we've gotten through this last episode that they're talking about doing a series with Disney Plus where it's like looking for Tommy. And I really was hoping we were going to get that at the end of this. And I hope they don't. I hope it's a false rumor because we really do need like an actual payoff at the end of this road for Billy if that's what he's looking for.
Yeah. Yeah, I really hope if there's a cliffhanger in this episode, it's like a light one. It's not one that's like, that makes the ending kind of unsatisfying. Like, I want some sort of closure at the end of this.
The only way I think I could accept something like that is if I knew it was that there was going to be a season 2 and it would just be a continuation of this story. If it was a season 2 of Agatha all along, and the season 2 was them finding Tommy, that's really the only way I could really accept it personally.
My thing is this: where the hell is Rio?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a good. I had that question too.
Where is Rio? Where is she? I mean, you just don't get Aubrey Plaza and not keep her in it. You know what I'm saying? Like, she was funny, good acting, good everything. But where is Aubrey? There's something's going on there. So that's my biggest thing. I think the next episode we're gonna get more into maybe going on, because how many more episodes are there? Somebody
3
more episodes. So we possibly have 3 more characters that they're going to have driven episodes around, just like they did with with William Kaplan, and kind of tell their story on how they're kind of intertwined with all of this. And I feel like Rio has a huge play into all of it. And because she was sprinkled in and not really, talked about as much, but I feel like Rio is like Rio is the question here. Like, what's really going on? Because like the contrast between Rio and Agatha, there may be some kind of love interest there. And what's really going on with all that is like, I really want to know more about Rio and Agatha. So now I'm gonna flip this. It's gonna be a Rio and Agatha episode, the next one we get.
Yeah, it's a good call.
So we do have 2 posters that we have not seen fulfillment for. One is Lila dressed up like Glinda the Good Witch. There's a second poster that has, I believe it's Jennifer. And it's in a room that if you look at the previous trailers, we will see Agatha and Billy in what looks similar to the clothing that Peter and Wanda were wearing in Age of Ultron. But it's in more of like a corners type room. It's like an all steel room, which there is a poster with Jennifer in that room where it's got circular lights on the top. So is that. The last we saw Rio was, of course, with Alice as they were all leaving, because we know she wasn't part of the group. I do believe if we see something, my thoughts are we're going to see at least a blip of Lila and Jennifer getting out of the hole. There's going to be that asylum / coroner's office type episode. There's going to be a episode. It's kind of like Alice in Wonderland or Wizard of Oz, since we've seen the posters for that.
Mhm.
I
think
and
they've been playing
then
into that too.
yeah, and I feel like in the midst of it, maybe we're gonna get like a Rio who I think is death, like ferrying Alice to the afterlife or giving her an option. So yeah, I think that's where we go. And that would fit within 3 episodes, and we would not still run the curse of Disney Plus Marvel shows that they can't fulfill what they normally do. I mean, they haven't had production delays, they've had time to cook. I have full faith these episodes are going to be fleshed out, and we're going to end this thing satisfied. Or else
And
I'm
with
just
a
going to say
season
there's
2.
6 episodes. Yeah. Please. Please.
Yeah.
I
and
wouldn't
with
even
the
mind seeing them still stuck in the Witch's Road at the end.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, that without, that's the only way I could accept like an actual full payoff is if we knew we were going to get a season 2.
Mhm.
If there's any kind of cliffhanger at the end of this and we don't get resolution, I'm gonna be annoyed about it.
Yeah, I can see that. All right, guys. Well, we have already gone over an hour, which is fantastic. So I want to say this before I get you guys to tell me where we can find you. Again, like I've said this before, you all are welcome to come back for any of the last 3. Well, actually, the last 2 shows, being that the last 2 episodes of of Agatha All Along will be combined on October 30th, which means that the Saturday that we'll be doing this is literally it's the Day of the Dead, which kind of works out really well to end this commentary show. But for those of you who are listening, if you are listening on podcasts, please make sure that you're subscribed. Thank you so much for those of you who have been subscribing, the hundreds of you who've been downloading each episode and watching it. You are making this a very successful podcast. I appreciate that. In fact, when you search Agatha All Along, we're typically number 4, which we're right after the actual Marvel podcast, which I cannot complain with that when you look it up on Apple Podcasts. But also, if you are listening on podcasts or if you're watching this on Facebook, X, or YouTube, please make sure you're subscribing to all of our locations. We are at It's Fanbox everywhere you find us, except for Mastodon. We're going to keep that. Screen Hub Entertainment has that in the bag. I'm sorry, I can barely keep up with X and Instagram. So, but please if you are looking to find our YouTube, it's really simple. Just go to itsfanbox.com. Also, make sure you're following nerdinitiative.com for all of the New York Comic Con information and rundowns that you can get, and follow Nerd Initiative on social media because they're going to be talking about stuff even tomorrow that's going to be dropping in panels and whatnot. So be sure to follow there as well. With that said, let's go ahead, Alex. Let's go ahead and have you start. We'll go clockwise and we'll skip over me since I don't need to be told where I could be found. So,
okay, well, you guys, anybody who's listening can find me. Just search for Screen Hub Entertainment or Screen Hub Entertainment News. That's pretty much everywhere. You'll be able to find me. Please check out the blog. We write on a bunch of different topics. And it's not just me. It's usually me in any videos, but I have my co-founders who help out with some of the other social media, and we all do a lot of writing, and there's some really great writing on the website. So I urge everybody to check that out. Also, quick shout out, I also manage another podcast. It's called Film and Spirits, and it begins every episode. It's my 2 friends, Fred and Sean, They're also co-founders for Screen Hub Entertainment, and every episode they start out. They're kind of novices in the hard liquor in game. But they enjoy some whiskeys and some scotches, and they'll give a little bit, just a couple minutes of what they're drinking that night, and then a review of what they're drinking that night, and then they will move on, and it's entertainment news, it's what's going on in the industry, it's what's playing now, what they've been excited about. So it's a good time. They're very chill, very it's actually a pretty relaxing podcast. I'm a fan myself.
That sounds like something I'm going to subscribe to.
As soon as you, when Juan doesn't drink comics, Juan drinks beer. So
I love me some whiskey too.
We'll definitely check it out. Go ahead.
Okay.
Oh no. I am Xanatos1138 on all socials, mostly TikTok. I talk Star Wars. I talk Doctor Who. Lately, it's been kind of a laid back thing, not really a schedule. But if you have any questions or lore stuff, I love talking about that. So yeah, come find me there.
Okay.
I'm Juan Reads Comics, and you can find me on TikTok. That's where I'm at right now. I'm trying to work on Facebook and Instagram and all that jazz. They're all out there, but I really don't play with them that much. I play with TikTok the most, so that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I feel you. I'm the exact same way. Like it's hard to kind of like cross the streams with other stuff. So for those who can do it successfully, it's definitely something that's commendable.
There's a lot to be said about finding something that works and keeping it simple.
Yeah.
Yep. And listen, if you are listening to this even like live right now, or you're watching after the fact or listening after the fact, please be sure to reach out to us. If you'd like to be a contributor or be a part of, It's Fanbox in any way or capacity, please reach out to us at itsfanbox@gmail.com. We'd love to talk with you and see how we can get you involved. Even if you have never been a content creator, maybe now is when you start. But with that said, everyone have a good night. Thank you to all of my guests for joining us this evening, especially for those of you who went through the entire day of New York Comic Con and are still alive. I'm going to go ahead and end this show so you can go pass out. But with that said, thank you guys for joining us. And